shouldn't have listened.
I didn't see him get in. There was no knock, no door opening, no weight shift, nothing like that. The first time I knew something was wrong was when the rearview mirror started shaking on its own, vibrating just enough that I thought one of the brackets had come loose. I was on the interstate, somewhere between Columbus and Indianapolis, about 2 in the morning. 6-hour drive, empty road, cruise control on. Stupid true crime podcast playing just to keep me awake. I reached up with 2 fingers to steady the mirror. The shaking stopped. And that's when I noticed it. In the glass, framed perfectly between the front seats, was the outline of a head in the back seat. Not rising, not leaning forward, just there, as if it had been sitting there the whole time and I'd only just noticed. That was the moment my brain did that awful stutter where it tries to pick the least terrifying explanation in under a second. Jacket tossed over the seat. Shadow from a pole. Something in the window. I tapped the brakes. The car slowed. The mirror jiggled on the plastic stem, but the head didn't sway with the movement of the car. Everything else bounced. My air freshener, the GPS cable, even my own reflection, but the shape of the head stayed perfectly fixed in place. I felt my hands tighten on the wheel so hard my knuckles ached. "Okay," I muttered. No, that's just angle. It's just angle." I flicked on the cabin light. The back seat was empty. No jacket, no bags. Nothing but the cheap seat cover I'd bought on Amazon and the indentation where my nephew's booster seat had sat 2 weeks earlier. I reached back at the next red light in some tiny town, patted the upholstery like an idiot, even turned and looked. Nothing. I snapped the light off. In the mirror, the head was back, closer now. The top of it almost grazing the bottom of the mirror frame, like whoever was back there had leaned forward just enough to make sure I could see them. My stomach dropped so hard I actually said "no" out loud. Not a scream, not a shout, just this quiet, shaky "no" to nobody. I tried to breathe slower. The podcast kept going, oblivious, some host talking about a missing hiker. The mile markers slid past. The reflection of the head stayed absolutely still. I told myself not to look at it. Just focus on the lane lines. Don't crash the car over a glitch. At the next stretch, where the highway was empty in both directions, I did something I'm not proud of. I slammed the brakes hard. Not enough to throw me into the steering wheel, but enough to make everything in the car lurch forward. My backpack flew off the passenger seat. The fast food bag tipped over. My phone slid halfway off the center console. The mirror shook violently on its stem. The head didn't move. It didn't jolt, didn't lurch, didn't dip with the motion of the car. It just sat there. The suggestion of a crown, the hint of a forehead, the curve of shoulders, human-shaped, completely unaffected by physics. I pulled onto the shoulder, hazards on, heart pounding like somebody was slamming my ribs from the inside. The moment the car stopped moving, the mirror went still. Slowly, with hands that didn't feel like they belonged to me, I turned in my seat. Empty. The dome light glowed sickly overhead, making everything look flatter and more fake. The back seat was just vinyl and fabric. No one sitting there. No head, no shadow. I sat there for a long time, breathing. "This is just being tired," I said. "You're tired. You shouldn't be driving, that's all this is." A semi roared past, buffeting the car. I jumped. When the sound faded, it was just me and the ticking of the engine cooling. I reached up, adjusted the mirror a little higher so that all I could see was the back window and the faint suggestion of the highway behind me. No back seat. No head. I put the car back in drive and pulled off the shoulder. For about 10 minutes, it worked. Nothing in the mirror but dark road, occasional headlights from behind, empty lanes. I even picked the podcast back up and tried to let my brain sink into someone else's nightmare. Then the mirror tilted down by itself. I didn't touch it. It just sagged, a fraction of an inch. Then another, as if the weight of something unseen was dragging it down. In the glass, framed perfectly once more between the seats, the back of a head stared at me, closer than before. The line of a neck, the slope of shoulders, and a dark jacket I recognized immediately. It was my jacket. The one I'd left hanging in my closet at home. My throat closed. I tasted metal in my mouth. I said, "Get out of my car." My voice didn't sound like mine, too thin, too tight. In the mirror, the figure didn't move, but the glass fogged, just a little, right where a mouth would be. 3 slow breaths. In, out. In, from behind me. Not from the heater, not from my own breath, not from the vents, from the empty back seat. I pulled into the next gas station like my life depended on fluorescent lighting. I must have looked insane on the security camera. I parked, flung the door open, and did a full lap of the car, yanking open every door, checking the trunk, even checking under the chassis like someone had somehow managed to cling there for miles. Nothing. Of course, nothing. The guy behind the counter watched me through the glass doors, eyebrows raised. When I finally went in to pay for gas, I asked him, "Hey, do your pumps have cameras?" He snorted. "Buddy, everything has cameras. Could you check something for me?" He gave me that look people give when they're trying to decide if they're about to be robbed or entertained. Like what? I slid my card, bought a coffee I didn't want, and said, "I just pulled in kind of weird. I want to make sure I didn't hit anything." He grumbled, but he turned the monitor on his side of the counter and scrubbed back through the feed. The grainy black and white view of the lot appeared. My car raced in, brakes squealing slightly. I watched myself jump out, yank open the rear door, trunk, check underneath. "See?" I said, pointing. "Was there anybody in the back seat when I pulled in?" The guy squinted, clicked, rewound. "There you are," he muttered. "Car's empty, man. Just you. Can you zoom?" He zoomed in on the driver's side. The camera quality was bad. My face was just a white blob, my body a darker blob. The back seat was mostly shadow. But for 3 frames, 3 separate consecutive images, there was a second blur directly behind me. A darker patch, human-shaped. In each frame, it leaned closer to the side of my head. The clerk froze on the last one. "Weird compression," he said. "Old system, makes all kinds of ghosts." He chuckled at his own joke. I did not. Because in the last frame, the darker blur behind me had a lighter smudge where the face should be. The exact same shade as my own. I left the gas station, shaking. Back on the highway, I tried a new trick. I angled the mirror all the way up so it only showed the ceiling of the car and the faint glow of the overhead light. No back seat, no windshield, nothing. The mirror tilted down again on its own, slower this time, like it was being careful, like it didn't want me to notice. The back seat came into view. At first it was empty. Then the head rose up from behind the driver's seat, directly behind my left ear. Not like someone sitting up. There was no movement from shoulders or arms. It was like a shape being drawn in real time, line by line, filled in by some invisible hand. There was no face, just the impression of one. The places where eyes and a mouth should have been were slightly darker than the rest of the head, like a fingerprint pressed into fog. For the first time, I seriously considered stopping the car and just getting out on the side of the highway and walking until morning. Instead, I did the dumbest thing I could have done. I said, "What do you want?" My voice shook so badly I barely heard the words. In the mirror, the not face tilted. Not down, not up. Sideways, like a dog hearing an unfamiliar sound. Then, in a voice that was almost mine but not quite, slower, like it was reading from something, it said, "You're driving." I nearly sent the car into the median. The voice didn't come from the speakers. It didn't come from behind me or from my own throat. It was everywhere. Inside my ears, inside the cabin, inside the plastic. I fumbled for the radio and shut the podcast off. Silence. For half a mile, the only sound was the tires on the asphalt and the rasp of my breathing. Then the voice came again, a little steadier. "You drive. I ride." My bladder tried to evacuate itself. I clenched everything and said through my teeth, "You're not real. You're not real. This is just..." The mirror shook once, sharply, like someone had slapped it from behind. I stopped talking. On the side of the road, a sign flashed past. "Welcome to Indiana." Somewhere around 4:30, I couldn't take it anymore. The fatigue, the adrenaline, the constant awareness of the thing behind me, it all blurred into this nauseating fog. I pulled into a rest stop, the kind with vending machines and those sad little picnic tables no one uses at night. I parked under the brightest light I could find. Before I even turned off the engine, the mirror tilted itself down one last time. The back seat was empty. The indentation wasn't. The fabric was depressed, a clear human-shaped dip where no one had ever sat. The seatbelt on the passenger side lay twisted, the buckle pressed into the cushion like someone had been sitting on top of it. I turned in my seat slowly, feeling like the inside of my chest was packed with glass. Empty. I reached back, hand shaking, and pressed my fingers into the indentation. It was warm. Not cold from where my heater had blown, not hot from the engine. Body warm. Fresh. I yanked my hand back like I'd touched a stove. Out of the corner of my eye, in the mirror, the head appeared again, inches behind my own. This time, though, the not face had something like features. They were wrong. The eyes too wide apart, the mouth pulled too horizontal, the jaw too narrow, but I recognized the attempt. It was trying to be me. It leaned closer until the mirror showed nothing but that calcifying almost face and the faint suggestion of a smile being practiced for the first time. "You're tired," it said. "I'll drive next time." I turned off the car, snatched my keys, and stumbled out into the cold air. I slept in the restroom building for an hour, hunched in a plastic chair, listening to the hum of the fluorescent lights and the occasional trucker footsteps. When I finally got the courage to go back to the car at sunrise, the windows were fogged from the inside. All of them. I wiped a circle with my sleeve and looked in. The back seat was empty. The indentation remained. The rearview mirror was tilted all the way down, aimed not at the back window, not at the seat, but at the exact spot my face would be when I sat down. Waiting. I'm telling you this from a rental car. I left my own parked at that rest stop with the doors unlocked and the keys on the front seat. When I checked the lot on Google Street View out of morbid curiosity, the most recent image shows my car sitting there. And and for one frame, just one, the rear window is dark enough that you can see a shadow inside. A head, leaning forward between the seats. Not watching the photographer, watching the spot where the driver should be. Waiting for someone to get in and start driving again. I always thought dogs sense things we don't was just one of those comforting lies people tell when their pet stares at a corner for too long. I don't think that anymore. My dog Baxter doesn't scare easy. He's a 70-pound mutt, part lab, part shepherd, part whatever wandered through his ancestors' yards with good posture. He barks at delivery trucks, chases squirrels, sleeps like a corpse on my bed every night. Thunder doesn't faze him. Fireworks make him mildly annoyed. So the first time I saw actual fear in his eyes, it didn't register as paranormal. It just made my stomach drop in a different way. It was 3:30 in the morning. I remember the time because the clock on my nightstand had just flipped from 3:29 to 3:30 when Baxter's ears shot up. 1 second he was snoring, the next he was upright, all 4 paws planted on the mattress, body facing the open bedroom door. The growl that rolled out of him didn't sound like his. It was low and steady and came from someplace under his ribs I'd never heard before. "Buddy?" I whispered. "What is it?" He didn't look at me. He stared into the hallway, hackles up, tail rigid. The hallway was empty. Just the dim outline of the picture frames and the nightlight I kept plugged in down by the bathroom. Then Baxter's growl broke off mid-note. He stepped backward, slowly, never looking away from the doorway. His shoulder brushed my arm. Every muscle in his body trembled. "Bax?" He licked his lips, whimpered, and then, very carefully, he turned his head and looked at the space directly behind me. Not at me. Behind me. I went cold in an instant. I don't know if you've ever had a dog you trust do that, stare past you with naked terror, but it's a horrible, shrinking feeling. I didn't want to turn around. Everything in me said, "Don't. Just don't look." But of course I did. The room was the same. Dresser, closed closet, the window with the cheap blackout curtains. Nothing there. Baxter's eyes tracked something moving. Not in the room. Around me. His gaze slid from my left shoulder to my right, following an arc in the air like something invisible was circling the bed. His growl started again, louder, his front paws planting between me and whatever he saw. I couldn't feel it. No cold, no heat, no hand on my skin. But the air felt denser, like humidity, like the room had one extra person in it and all the oxygen had to stretch farther. "Hey!" I said, my voice much too loud. "Cut it out, Bax! There's nothing there!" As if in response, the bedside lamp flickered. Once, twice. The bulb didn't blow. It dimmed and brightened like a heartbeat, matching the pounding in my chest. Baxter barked, a single sharp sound that made my ears ring. The room snapped back to normal. He leaped off the bed, claws scrambling on the hardwood, and bolted out into the hallway. I heard his nails skitter on the stairs as he flew down to the first floor. I didn't sleep again. The next morning, Baxter refused to come into the bedroom. He'd stand in the doorway, tail wagging nervously, then sit down just outside the frame, as if the room had an invisible fence. When I tossed his favorite toy on the bed, he whined. "Come on, man," I said, patting the comforter. "It's fine. It was just weird shadows, okay? You're okay." He turned his head away, his ears pinned back, eyes tracking the air above my head instead, following nothing. I shut the door after that, telling myself it was just a dog being weird. That night, I left it open again. I shouldn't have. At 3:31 a.m., the lamp clicked on by itself. A soft tick from the switch. The warm yellow light flooded the room. I woke up disoriented, blinking against the brightness. The first thing I registered was the silence. No Baxter breathing, no paws against the mattress, no dog snore. The second thing was the fact that I couldn't move my legs. Not paralyzed, pinned. The blankets were stretched tight across my thighs like something heavy was lying on them. I forced my head up. The bed looked normal. Blanket, sheets, nothing visible on top of them. But the fabric was pressed down in two long, perfect depressions on either side of my legs, as if something invisible and roughly human-sized was stretched out on top of them, face down, fingers just out of sight. My heart hammered so hard I could hear it in my ears. I whispered, "Baxter." No dog. Instead, from somewhere near my feet, under the covers, I felt a tremor, like someone exhaled slowly, breath sinking through fabric, warm against my skin. I ripped the blankets back. Nothing. No weight, no body, just my own legs and the mattress. The indentations vanished the second the blankets came off, as if I'd erased them. From out in the hallway, Baxter barked once, sharp, panicked. I scrambled out of bed and ran to the doorway. He was at the top of the stairs looking up at the ceiling. Not the hallway ceiling, the ceiling above my bedroom. A circular spot, maybe 4 feet across, bulged downward like someone in the attic was lying on their stomach, pressing their body weight against the plaster. As I watched, a long, thin ridge formed in the center of the bulge. A finger. It dragged slowly along the curve of the bulge, tracing an invisible line. My body below. Baxter barked again, then again, each time louder, more frantic. He lunged at the bulge, teeth snapping at the air as if he could bite through the ceiling. "Hey!" I shouted. "Stop! Stop it!" The bulge withdrew as quickly as if someone had flinched. The ceiling went flat. The attic settled into its usual muffled creaks. Baxter stared for a long time, then backed down a few stairs, never taking his eyes off that spot. I told myself we had raccoons, or a possum, or something big and gross that had gotten into the insulation. The next afternoon, I pulled down the attic ladder. The heat hit me first, stale, dusty, thick with that fibrous insulation smell. I poked my head up, one hand holding my phone's flashlight. The space was mostly empty. A few old boxes from the previous owner, some boards laid down as a makeshift path, and pink insulation in every gap. Something had tunneled through it. Long grooves, like someone had dragged their arms through the fluff over and over. Some were so deep they went all the way down to the drywall ceiling below. The pattern radiated out from the area directly above my bed. In the center, the insulation was flattened in the shape of a person. Not quite. Longer than me. Arms too long, legs extending farther back than they should have. Like something had been lying there night after night, hugging the ceiling, pressing its weight down just enough for me to feel it. Along one beam, I saw marks. Not claw marks, not teeth. Fingers. 4 long gouges and a shorter thumb-shaped one etched into the wood as if something had been gripping it hard enough to leave impressions. That night, I slept downstairs on the couch, Baxter curled beside me. At 3:27 a.m., he woke up. His ears went up. He stared at the ceiling. Not the one above us, the one above my bedroom. He whined, and then I heard it again, muffled this time, but unmistakable. A slow, drawn-out exhale. Right over where my bed was, upstairs. The next few nights, I tried all the rational things, called pest control. Guy came out, stomped around, checked for droppings. "Could be a raccoon," he said. "Might be bigger than usual, but I don't see fresh signs." I asked, "Could it be, like, the house shifting?" He shrugged. "Old wood pops, yeah, but breathing? That'd be a first." He laughed. I didn't. He set a couple of non-lethal traps, then left. That night, the breathing changed. It wasn't just exhale anymore. It inhaled. Deeply. Like someone had pressed their face right against the ceiling above my bed and was smelling through it. I wasn't in the bed. I was on the couch downstairs, staring up at the underside of the floorboards, feeling the vibration in my bones. Baxter hid under the coffee table, whining. The breathing thing followed the shape of the room slowly, an invisible lung dragging itself from above the bed to above the dresser, then the closet, then back again. Mapping. Learning. At 3:38 a.m., it inhaled so sharply that the upstairs door to the bedroom swung shut. Not from a draft. From pressure. Something pulling. Baxter yelped and pawed at my arm. "Okay," I whispered. "Okay, buddy. We're okay. We're okay." We were not okay. Last night is why I'm talking to you. I decided enough was enough. I was going to sleep in my own bed, like an adult, in my own house that I pay a mortgage on and mow the lawn of and pick up Baxter's poop in the yard of. No stupid ceiling ghost was going to bully me into living downstairs like I was camping. I left the bedroom door open so Baxter could come and go. He didn't. He lay in the hallway just outside, chin on his paws, eyes fixed on the spot above my pillow. "Suit yourself," I told him, "but I'm sleeping." It took me forever to drift off. When I did, the dream I had was strange. I was lying exactly where I was in real life, in my bed, on my back. In the dream, I couldn't move, but I could see. The ceiling was inches above my face, not because I'd risen, because it had lowered. The plaster sagged down like stretched skin, white paint now close enough that if I'd reached up, I could have touched it. Baxter was in the hallway, barking soundlessly like someone had muted him. Above the sagging ceiling, shadows moved, long limbs, elbows, something like a torso. A face pressed into the plaster directly above my own, features bulging outward like clay from the other side. No eyes, no mouth, just an impression. It inhaled. The plaster thinned. Then I woke up. Except I wasn't lying down anymore. I was standing, in the doorway, facing my own bed. The blankets were stretched tight, perfectly smooth. Something was beneath them, shaped like a person lying on their back. My shape. My breathing. My chest rising and falling under the covers. But I was standing in the doorway, awake, heart pounding. For a second, my brain tried to split the difference. Sleepwalking, dreaming, dissociation. Then the thing under the blanket exhaled. Loud. Too loud for my lungs. From above the bed, the ceiling bulged downward. Something long and heavy shifted in the attic. Baxter barked so violently he choked. The thing under the blanket turned its head toward me. Not a full turn, just enough that I could see the shape of its nose under the sheet, the outline of a mouth. My mouth. I did what any brave, rational homeowner would do. I ran. I grabbed my keys, my phone, nothing else, and fled the house with Baxter crashing into my legs in blind panic. We slept in the car in the driveway, engine off, windows cracked. At 3:19 a.m., I heard it exhale above the car. Not from the house, from the roof of the vehicle. The metal flexed minutely over my head. Baxter whimpered. I didn't move. Now it's the next night. I'm in a motel 3 towns over. Baxter is asleep at the foot of the bed, finally, snoring gently. The ceiling above me is flat and clean and belongs to a building that's not mine. But a few minutes ago, the vent above the bed made a sound. Not the fan. A breath. Long and slow. And the voice that followed used my own lungs, my own tone, my own cadence when it whispered through the metal. Found you. And on the TV, which I swear I turned off, the black screen shows just enough reflection that I can see something standing behind me in the room. Tall, thin, head tilted up toward the vent, as if it's waiting to crawl out of it and lie down where I'm supposed to be.
People think RV living is peaceful, freedom, open road, a little metal box you can call home wherever you stop. That's what I thought too, right up until my 3rd night parked outside a gas station off Route 41, when I woke up to someone tapping on my trailer window. Not knocking, tapping. 3 slow, deliberate taps. I sat up fast. The blinds were down, but the sound came from the thin pane of glass inches from my face. I held my breath and waited. Tap, tap. The 3rd one never came. I should have looked out the window, should have grabbed my phone, should have checked the lock. Instead, I stayed perfectly still, staring at the curtain like a child who thinks silence is camouflage. Something pressed gently against the outside wall. Not a hit, a weight. The aluminum siding flexed inward like a large hand leaned into it. Then I heard breathing. Not from outside, from somewhere between the layers of the wall. A slow exhale, like someone with their face pressed against it, trying not to laugh. I whispered, "Who's there?" The breathing stopped instantly. The kind of silence where the whole world freezes. Then something slid, slowly, across the outer skin of the trailer. The metal groaned in long, horizontal creases like a fingertip being dragged along a soda can. I swung my legs off the bed, grabbed the small kitchen knife I kept near the sink, and approached the window. Before I touched the blinds, the tapping returned. This time it came from higher, a full foot above where the original taps had been. I'm 6 feet tall. Whoever was outside was taller, tall enough that the top of their reach started near the ceiling line. I pulled the blinds up in one fast motion. Nobody was there. Just the parking lot, bright under a single flickering floodlight, an empty dumpster, and my own reflection in the glass. I stared at that reflection for a long time. Then my reflection blinked. My actual eyes didn't. My reflection did. Once, slowly. I stumbled backward, tripping on the worn-out rug, and scrambled for the door. I yanked it open and stopped. Because someone was standing below the steps. Someone I should have seen through the window. Tall, too tall. Shoulders brushing the underside of the metal awning, head tilted sharply to the right like a puppet with a broken neck. The floodlight flickered above us. Every time it dimmed, the shape in front of me shifted a fraction of an inch closer. Its hair hung forward, hiding its face. Arms too long, fingers nearly brushing the gravel. Its body was so thin I could see the silhouette bend with each shallow breath. "These spots are taken," I managed to say, voice trembling. It lifted its head, slowly, too slowly. A motion that felt like something learning how a head should move rather than remembering it. The hair parted. There was no face beneath it, just skin,
smooth, unbroken, like someone had stretched clay over bone and forgotten to sculpt it. But in the center of that blank shape, as I stared, something bulged outward. A small push, like something on the other side trying to press through. I slammed the door and locked it. The thing outside didn't bang or call out or scrape. It just stood there, breathing. I heard the soft hiss through the metal vent near the kitchenette. Then a new sound joined it, a faint, rubbery squeak, like wet feet shifting on gravel. I backed up all the way to the far wall of the trailer, gripping the knife so tightly my knuckles cracked. My breath fogged in the cold air. The trailer lurched once, as if something large had placed its full weight on the roof. A long, slow drag traveled across the ceiling. I could see dust drifting down with each movement. Whatever was up there circled the roof in a slow spiral, each footfall impossibly gentle for something so heavy. Then it stopped, right above my bed. A soft thud, like a knee settling into place. Then another. Then two pale hands pushed through the ceiling, not breaking it, passing through it. Like the material wasn't resisting, like the trailer roof was nothing but fog to it. The hands hung inches above my face, fingers long enough to curl down past my shoulders. They twitched, exploring the air like antennae. When one fingertip brushed my cheek, I dropped the knife. I don't remember the next 2 minutes. I think I fainted. When I woke, the lights were off. Cold dawn leaked through the blinds. The trailer was silent. No footprints outside. No marks on the ceiling. No indentations. Nothing torn, scratched, or disturbed. But the wall by the window had a new bulge, small, like someone pressing their palm outward from inside the metal. And on the inside of the window, written in the condensation from my breath, were 4 words. You look like me. I tried to leave that morning. My truck wouldn't start. Battery dead. An hour later, I called a tow. The tow guy walked around the RV with his hands in his pockets, whistling. You out here alone? Yeah, I said. He gave a slow nod. You see the guy who was standing by your steps? I froze. What guy? He lifted a finger and pointed behind me. I turned. The gravel had footprints leading right up to my trailer door. Bare feet. Enormous bare feet. The prints were deep and shapeless, as if the feet that made them weren't fully formed. And the last print, the final one before the steps, had toes that curled under at an impossible angle, like the foot had folded in on itself. I said nothing. Neither did the tow guy. He worked faster after that. I drove away and didn't look back. I burned half a tank of gas before I found the courage to stop and breathe. I checked my mirrors obsessively, checked my back seat, checked the roofline through the sunroof. Nothing. By nightfall, I thought maybe, just maybe, I had outrun whatever that thing was. Then as I pulled into a rest stop, scraping bugs off the windshield, I saw something reflected in the glass of the vending machine. A tall, thin silhouette standing behind my RV. Arms too long, head tilted sideways, hair hanging over where a face should be. I spun around. Nothing there. Just my trailer. And on the dusty back window, traced by a finger from the inside, with the same 4 words. You look like me. I'm sleeping in a motel tonight, but the vents keep breathing. And in the bathroom mirror, when I looked long enough, my reflection blinked before I did. I moved into the apartment because it was cheap. That's the only reason. Cheap rent, decent square footage, a window that faced the mountains if I craned my neck. My landlord told me the upstairs unit was unoccupied. He didn't say why. On my first night, around 1:14 a.m., I heard footsteps above me. Slow, dragging, like someone walking with socks on carpet that didn't exist. I ignored it. Footsteps happen. Old buildings settle. Pipes do weird things. The second night it happened again. Same time, same pacing. A slow walk from the corner above my bedroom to the center of the ceiling. Then a stop. Then a single sharp creak like weight shifting. What the hell? I whispered in the dark. I went up the stairs and knocked on the door of the upstairs unit. No answer. I tried the handle. Locked. I pressed my ear to the wood. Nothing. But when I went back downstairs, the footsteps started the moment I lay down. This time they were closer, right above my headboard. I didn't sleep well. On the third night, it wasn't footsteps. It was humming. Soft, low. A woman's voice. No tune I recognized, just this slow, melodic vibration of sound, almost like she was humming into the floorboards to see how far the sound would travel. I turned on my bedside lamp. The humming stopped instantly, like somebody holding their breath. After a full minute of silence, the woman whispered, "I can see your light," right above me. I scrambled out of bed and grabbed my phone. The ceiling looked normal, just white paint and old plaster. But the whisper came again, lower this time. "Turn it off." I didn't. I stayed awake until morning. The next day, I asked the landlord, casual as I could manage, if anyone lived above me. "Nope," he said. "Been vacant a while." "Why?" He shrugged. "Just hasn't rented." I almost told him, someone is up there. But something in his eyes told me he wouldn't believe it, or that he already knew. Night 4 is when everything shifted. I heard crying. Not loud, not dramatic. Quiet crying. Right above the bathroom this time. Soft, shaky breaths. Someone trying not to be heard but failing. I stood on the toilet and pressed my ear to the vent. The crying stopped. For 3 seconds. Then a whisper slid through the vent slats. "Don't stand there." I fell off the toilet so hard I bruised my hip. Again, I didn't sleep. Night 5 is when she moved. Not walked, moved, like she was crawling. The ceiling above my living room dipped. The plaster bulged downward in a long oval. Something heavy dragged itself from one corner to the next. I sat on the couch, frozen, upright, hands gripping the cushions. The bulge paused above me, then pressed lower, as if a face were leaning down through the plaster, trying to see me. I whispered, "Please, stop." The bulge withdrew, but the voice didn't. It came from the ceiling vent this time, quiet and hushed. "They can hear you when you move." I whispered back, "Who?" The voice didn't answer. Night 6, everything escalated. There was no walking, no humming, no crying, just one unmistakable sound. Breathing. Above me, behind me, inside the walls. Slow, deep, wrong. Then the closet door opened by itself. Something stepped inside. I heard the soft thump of weight settling on a shelf. Then another slow exhale. I didn't move for hours. On the 7th night, I woke at 2:03 a.m. to find the ceiling directly above my bed darker. Not shadowed, darkened. The paint looked soaked, like water damage spreading outward in a perfect circle. In the center of the stain, a shape formed. Long, thin, upside down. Hair dangling straight down through the plaster. I could see strands moving, swaying gently as if brushed by a hand I couldn't see. I whispered, "Are you the woman upstairs?" A whisper came down. "No." The stain widened, the hair parted. Something pushed against the plaster from the other side. Not a face, a hand. A long, thin hand pressing palm first against the ceiling. Then fingers began to push through, not breaking it, phasing through, the same way steam slips through cloth. I bolted from the room and slammed the door shut. Seconds later, something tapped the other side of the door 3 times. Not threatening, just confirming I was still there. I started sleeping on the floor in the living room. Night 8, she, or it, followed. I woke to see the chandelier swaying, not because of wind, because something large and heavy had just moved on the floor above. The upstairs wasn't carpeted, I knew from the open house tour, but the footsteps were padded, soft, almost skin on wood. Then I heard breathing coming from the gap under my own door. A long inhale, the smell of wet dirt, and a whisper. "You shouldn't sleep here. It's thin." I whispered back, "What's thin?" The breathing stopped. Night 9 is when I made a mistake. I went upstairs. I shouldn't have. But the footsteps, the crawling, the crying, it didn't make sense. I needed to confirm I wasn't losing my mind. The upstairs unit door was locked, but the moment I touched the handle, it unlocked. Click. On its own. The air inside was cold, not normal winter cold, still cold. Air that wasn't circulating. The apartment was empty, but the ceiling. The entire ceiling looked warped, like a massive body had been crawling above it for years, dragging elbows and knees and ribs across the drywall. In one corner, the plaster had buckled outward, a large oval bulge as if something was pushing against it from inside the ceiling. I backed toward the door. Then the bulge moved. Just a tremor at first, then a long, slow press outward, and a whisper floated from the buckled plaster. "You didn't knock." I ran. Night 10 is when everything finally made sense. I didn't hear footsteps. I didn't hear crying. I didn't hear humming. I heard a man's voice, deep, calm, confident. It said, "She's not upstairs. She's between." The lights flickered. The plaster above the TV rippled like water. Something long passed just beneath the surface, dragging a shadow across the ceiling. The same deep voice spoke again. "Don't go back up there. It's thin." I whispered, "What's thin?" The voice didn't respond, but the ceiling bulged downward an inch, then 2, then 6. Hair spilled through the surface. Not one person's hair, multiple. As if several heads were pressed against the other side of the ceiling, hanging upside down, trying to push through at once. I backed to the far wall.
A new whisper emerged, higher, frantic, overlapping, many voices at once. "You look like him." The bulges pulsed. One of the thin hands slid through the plaster and hung above my face, palm down, waiting. I didn't wait to see what it wanted. I ran out the door barefoot, keys in hand, sprinted down the stairs, out into the freezing parking lot. When I reached my car, I looked back once. One time. Just once. The upstairs window had a silhouette in it. A woman. But her neck was too long, her shoulders too narrow, her arms hanging past her knees, and her head tilted at a perfect 90-degree angle, like it was listening to a noise inside the wall. She leaned against the glass. Her hair slid down the length of her face like wet rope. And though I couldn't see eyes, the tilt of her head made it clear. She was watching me leave. I didn't wake up because of a sound. I woke up because of movement. Movement in a place where nothing should have been moving. The bathroom light was on again. I could see it from my bed, a thin yellow strip under the door. I hadn't turned it on, and the water was running. Again. I told myself it was the old apartment being temperamental, but when I stepped into the hallway, I froze. Because the moment my foot touched the carpet, the running water stopped. Not gradually, not like a faucet that lost pressure. It cut off instantly, like someone had shut it with purpose. The door was half open. The mirror was angled toward the hall, and I swear, before I even entered, I saw myself standing in that reflection. Not standing where I was, standing where he was. Already inside the room. Already waiting. I pushed the door open slowly. My reflection stared back, breathing hard, eyes too wide, as if he'd been in the middle of something and I'd interrupted him. I lifted my hand to test the sink. He lifted his a beat later, a full beat, like he was remembering what he was supposed to do. I didn't move. He did. Very slowly, he leaned forward until his forehead touched the glass. His breath fogged the inside of the mirror. Inside. The fog spread like a handprint, except it pulsed like a heartbeat on the wrong side. I whispered, "What do you want?" His lips moved first. Mine followed. Not matching, not echoing, falling behind, trying to catch up to him. And then the mirror darkened slightly, enough to reflect more of the hallway behind me. That's when I saw it. A second figure standing in the hall. Not reflected behind me, reflected behind him. Taller than me, taller than the door frame. Its neck bent, head tilted sideways like it was studying me from an angle I wasn't meant to see. I spun around. Nothing there. But the mirror changed. My reflection wasn't in it anymore, just the tall figure, closer now, leaning toward the glass from the inside, pressing a long hand against it as if testing how thin the barrier had gotten. I backed out of the room slowly, but the reflection stayed. It didn't try to follow. It didn't need to. It just whispered, using my voice. Next time, turn around.